Something that stands out for me is growing up, my parents, I saw that they consistently treated people with kindness regardless of what the person's role was. So I saw the way they interacted with the mail carrier and the bank teller and the person who was checking us out at the store. And I saw that they treated all those people with respect. They brought them cookies for holidays. They knew their names. They called them by their name. They had a familiarity. There was a friendliness. And I think when you see that as a kid, that this is what we do, right? We give people our time, we give people our attention, we recognize them, we call them by their names, we joke around with them, we get to know them. They're not just somebody filling a role, they're a human being. And I feel like I saw that from the time I was little.
Welcome to the Kindness Factor podcast, sharing life-changing personal stories of the transformational impact of deep kindness. Hosted by
Dr. Elia, the happiness doctor,
and Randy McNeely, the kindness giver. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to another episode of the Kindness Factor podcast. I'm Randy McNeely, known as the kindness giver, and I'm joined by my amazing, wonderful, happy Greek co-host, Dr. Elia Gourgouris. Where are you coming to us from, Elia?
All the way from Greece on this episode.
All the way from Greece, is in Galaxy City, in his hometown. And we are thrilled today to have the opportunity to be joined by a wonderfully amazing lady named Rachel Druckenmiller. And I want to just tell you a little bit about Rachel. She's got over 20 years of experience and expansive background, helping organizations work with their, creating corporate culture, well-being, health, and human behavior. But Rachel is an amazing lady. She's very talented. She's released multiple songs, and she has been recognized by Smart Meetings as the best of the stage speaker in 2023. She's not only a singer, but she's a speaker. She was been nominated as recognized by Forbes as a Next 1000 honoree, Workforce Magazine as a 40 under 40 game changer, and also #1 health promotion professional in the U.S. by the Wellness Council of America. That's pretty big deal. Rachel has served clients ranging from 20 to 60,000 employees, including Citizens Bank, the National Education Association, SHRM, United Healthcare, Sherwin-Williams, and the list goes on. She's an amazing TEDx speaker, and like I said, a singer-songwriter. She's also the president of an amazing organization called Unmuted. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. And it's a speaking and training company. It's on a mission to activate the power of curiosity and to unleash what's possible. Rachel has a master's degree in health science and a bachelor's degree in psychology. And though she doesn't have a degree in this, she is a master of kindness. And we're so grateful that she could join us today. Rachel, thank you so much for being with us.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Excited to be here.
So Rachel, I mean, Randy knows a lot about you. I don't know anything about you other than what he just read. So I'm kind of curious. Over the years, you don't become a kindness advocate unless you're in the receiving end of something pretty special in your life. And everybody that we've interviewed, this is probably the toughest question. Who's your kindness hero? Most people have more than one, by the way. But is there an experience that was so transformative in your life that it truly changed the course of how you behave, how you think, and how you treat others as a result of that?
I mean, there's something that stands out for me is growing up. My parents, I saw that they consistently treated people with kindness regardless of what the person's role was. So I saw the way they interacted with the mail carrier and the bank teller and the person who was checking us out at the store. And I saw that they treated all those people with respect. They brought them cookies for holidays. They knew their names. They called them by their name. They had a familiarity. There was a friendliness. And I think when you see that as a kid, that this is what we do, right? We give people our time. We give people our attention. We recognize them. We call them by their names. We joke around with them. We get to know them. They're not just somebody filling a role. They're a human being. And I feel like I saw that from the time I was little. And there's one person, I'd say people that were the greatest, I'd say, catalyst for kindness to me growing up, in addition to my parents, were my teachers. Like I struggled to fit in. And I think sometimes people, there was something I heard in a podcast recently of somebody saying something like, our greatest fear manifests in the way that, like, in the opposite way in how we show up. So like if we were somebody who was excluded, or we were somebody who's left out, or somebody who didn't quite feel like we fit, we, over the course of our lives, try extra hard to make sure other people don't feel that way, or to create the opposite experience for another person, because we know what it feels like to be on the receiving end of exclusion or unkindness. And I experienced that, in grade school.
Can I ask why? I'm very curious as to why and what age did you experience that you didn't fit in?
Well, I went to Catholic school for 12 years. I'm not Catholic. My aunt is a nun, like my mom's. So we're not Catholic. And so from the time I was, first, second grade, all the other kids in my class would go to their, class for first communion or confirmation, and I would be left in the classroom to do a project by myself.
I see. Okay.
Or just, I didn't connect with the things my peers were into. I was very much a rule follower. I was the kid who in 5th grade raised my hand to remind the teacher that we were supposed to have a quiz today. Did you forget about our quiz? That kid is
not a popular stance.
All the other kids are like, why did you do that?
That's a self-inflicted wound, I think. But anyway, keep going.
It was. So for me, I was just so focused on like, what is the right thing to do? I wasn't necessarily concerned about, is this going to make me more likable? I was very much focused on like righteousness. And I wasn't subject to like a lot of peer pressure in ways that a lot of other kids were. And it was sort of like, if everybody else is doing a thing, even if it means I'm excluded, I'm not going to do that thing because I want to stand by my integrity and my morals and my principles. And so sometimes
not an easy thing to do when you're going through those developmental years in middle school and high school. That's not easy to do.
No, it's very hard. And it might mean that you're left out. That alone might be one of the reasons you're left out of things. And I think I also created the scenario for myself. I think I told myself a story that people don't like you, you're not included. There were days where, it was Valentine's Day or Christmas and everybody had a card or a gift on their desk and I was the only one in the whole class that didn't.
Oh my word.
That feeds the story, basically.
Yeah, that does feed the story. And it's, you can't help it sometimes when things like that happen, you sit and think, wow, I must be different. I must be the oddball, I'm the odd person out. Everybody else has this and I don't. What's wrong with me?
Yes.
You might ask yourself that. And so I can understand you feeling that way. So that experience then has driven you to, you have that's kind of, and correct me if I'm wrong, your organization is called Unmuted, right? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of the driver behind that, because you want to let give yourself the grace to speak out and to use your voice and to inspire other people not to allow themselves to be muted, mm-hmm. but to speak out and share what they say. Am I on the right track?
Yes. And it's interesting because some people will think, you're not saying this, but some people in the past have thought, well, to be unmuted just means speak your truth and say your piece and like get it off your chest. And I'm like, like if us muting ourselves shuts down somebody else, that's not the intended effect. So for me, when I think of to be unmuted, I did mute myself when I was hurt, when I felt left out, when I felt excluded, when someone didn't invite me to go to go to the birthday party that everyone else got invited to, when they didn't invite me to go see Titanic with them, even though they knew it was my favorite movie. I never spoke up. I never said anything. I just wallowed in sadness in my room by myself in my little journal. And I never communicated that to anybody. And, it's okay to convey to people that hurt my feelings. I wanted to be a part of that. Is there something I could have done that would have made you want to reach out and include me in that? I just never, I internalized it and made it mean something. Mm-hmm. I never explored it. I never got curious about it. So I know the pain of that. And I also know just how good it feels when my elementary school math teacher, Ms. Schriefer, really saw me and she was so kind and she was so affirming and she was so validating at a time where I just wasn't feeling that from my peers. every time I saw her, she made me feel like I was the most special person in the room. Like I still remember her with such fondness, and she hasn't been my teacher for close to 30 years.
What a gift.
Isn't it amazing how, what to her was probably just a simple thing. I'm just recognizing Rachel, I'm acknowledging her. But that simple action on her part became the big action, the big thing in your life, big enough that it's still rippled out through time, and it's rippling out and it's still impacting you today and inspiring you. And I can't help but think, I've shared this a little bit before, but when I was in seventh grade, I had no self-esteem and I was going through all kinds of challenges with my family. And I had a similar situation where I had a teacher, my social studies teacher, first year, fresh out of college, named Brian Crouch. And to this day, Brian and I stay in touch. I still, I just got a text from him and a big long email from him the other day, suggesting some wonderful things we can do about kindness. And we're still staying in touch. And why is that? Is because when I was in his class, I don't remember a thing that he taught. I just remember how I felt. I always felt like I mattered, like he cared. And so I can totally relate to what you're saying, Rachel. That's beautiful. It's, go ahead, Elia.
Well, I was going to say when you're on the receiving end, either being ostracized or being left out, and you begin to tell the story, and then the story and the events that surround you validate that story and it gains a certain momentum. Yeah. When you become an adult and you're out of high school, of course, and you begin to live your own life and so on, you really have two choices. And I think that's really important for our audience to remember that we always stand at choice.
We always have a choice.
We can turn inward and isolate more and, assume the victim role and the poor me. Or we can do what you did, which is to design a life of beauty and then design a life of kindness and make this world a better place as a result of that. So I'm curious, because I know you talked about curiosity before, which I love. When did that switch happen where you said, you know what, I'm not going to let this define me and I'm going to choose a different path, and the path that you're on right now, and you have been for the last, 20, 30 years?
Well, it's interesting. I feel like I'm going to show you something that is relevant to this discussion. So when I was in 8th grade, they passed around a piece of paper and they put everyone's name on the top of it. And then we passed it around the room and people wrote one word or a brief phrase to describe each of our classmates. I went to 27 kids. And interestingly, the most common words that are on here for me, because I just thought people saw me as a smart kid. I was very academically inclined, but some of the most common: nice, kind-hearted, always there looking out for others, someone you can depend on, always looking out for you, nice, caring. I feel like I was always that way, because I knew what it felt like when people were not kind to me. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that developed in me from a very young age, that even if somebody was unkind to me, I wasn't going to give it back. I just wasn't going to retaliate. I wasn't going to be unkind in return.
When a wallet was returned just moments after it was lost, a purpose was found. This one act of kindness inspired the formation of the nonprofit Kindness Worldwide to create a culture of kindness in communities throughout the world. Kindness Week Worldwide mobilized the entire community in York, Pennsylvania, featuring initiatives and playbook programs including blood drives, kindness cards, K-12 and college students embracing kindness, and an innovative means of community policing, kindness citations. If something so magical can happen in York, Pennsylvania, the same and other inspirations can happen anywhere and everywhere. Our Screen Scenes initiative featuring the Kindness Factor will showcase these many stories of kindness. Let's include your community among them. Kindness is the heartbeat of the world. Together, with your support, we can make all its hearts beat as one.
What a great exercise, though, to have. And the fact that you have that paper next to you at this age speaks volumes of what it did for you, because maybe the story you were telling yourself was not the story other kids were saying about you.
Yeah, they
And you
weren't
saw it
saying
in black and white and written on paper. And what a powerful exercise that is. I don't know what teacher did that for you guys, but wow.
I know. I still have it. I will always, yeah, it matters. This kind of stuff. Nobody said goody two shoes. I mean, several people said smart, you know what I mean? Like, because they knew I was very studious, but like the most common thing, cheerful, but I was so shy. I was very shy as a kid. I was very guarded. I wasn't comfortable in my own skin in front of people. So I didn't like, my kindness showed up in the gentleness with which I showed up for people. But I'm much more outspoken now. I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm timid. I don't think anyone describe me, see me now as timid, but I was very timid. I was very shy. I was very guarded. And, I've had enough people, including a mutual friend of ours, Zactomopoulos, speaking of Greeks, people who now affirm what they see because I've let them see me. So part of it is I've let people see more of me. And as a result of that, they feel like they can show themselves. They can show me more of themselves. And I feel like that creates this really virtuous cycle of just letting ourselves be seen and received by people without judging it.
This is one of the most beautiful conversations Randy and I have ever been involved in. And the reason for that is you, Rachel, is your vulnerability and your just your honesty about your journey. I love it. It's not just whistles and bells. It's like, yeah, hey, this is the true story. This is what I've been through, and I've come out on the other side in a beautiful way. But it wasn't always easy. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't expect that today. So I honor you and I appreciate you from all the way from Greece. Thank you for sharing your story. Wow.
Yeah.
But and isn't it interesting how when we have experiences where people actually see us and they treat us with kindness and caring, it brings us, it encourages to want to be seen, right? Not in a self-aggrandizing way. It's just we want to come out, we want to share, we want to use our talents and abilities to lift and build and strengthen and help others, and empower others to be seen. That's we live in a time, when there's so much technology, there's so much social media, there's all these things when we're too many people are objectified rather than and seen as objects rather than seen as human beings. Too many people, we have a tendency to dehumanize other people, and so everything we can do to help people actually be seen, to see people as people, to see them for the beautiful, wonderful, glorious beings that they are, that's where we make the difference. And that's the beautiful thing about what you shared. Your friend, you had this conversation going on in your own head. And what an amazing thing to have that exercise where your friends said, showed you that they see you. This is how I see you, Rachel. And I can remember, and I've shared this story 5,000 times. When a friend of mine told me she thought I was really neat, that just totally dispelled the conversation I was having in my head. Because at that time in my life, I didn't feel really neat. In fact, I felt like I was really stupid. and having this sweet friend of mine tell me, he says, Randy, I think you're really neat. It totally dispelled that notion. It's just like the sweet notes that you have there. I love the fact that you have kept that paper all this time. That tells me, and maybe I'm wrong, but that tells me that those words are not just written on that paper. They're written on your heart.
Yeah. It's 27 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, and I look at
written
this
on your
and I'm
heart.
like, what's always been true? We go back to, we think we're so different. We think we're so different, right? The story I tell myself, I was this shy, goody-goody, perfectionistic, whatever in grade school. And they're like, can we tell you some other things that we saw? And it just...
But you have a beautiful combination, though. There's a mosquito that's trying to get me. Believe it or not. I've been trying to avoid the whole episode. I'm like, I'm going to kill this mosquito because but...
No, that doesn't sound very kind, Elia. You're not feeling very kind.
No, but it's buzzing my ears, and If there's 20 people in a room and there's one mosquito, I'm such sweet-blooded, I get it first. So this is a complete side note. Sorry to the audience. Live television, this is what happens. No, the fact that you had such great role models, mom and dad, your family, your parents, number one, and that they made everybody else be seen. Your teacher that actually went out of her way to love you and to show you that you matter, and then this letter that you got from your schoolmates. I feel like all three of these events, conspired, but in a positive way, to create this beautiful lady that you are inside and out, and to create the kindness advocate.
Yeah.
We can talk to you for hours. I mean, you have such an amazing story. Like, it's like, but here we are. We're getting close to the end of the show, and we would like to know.
I've got to have her. I've got to pull one little story out of her.
Sure, go ahead.
Tell me, Rachel. I know you have a story about our mutual friend, Mr. Zach Demopoulos.
Oh, okay.
I do, and it's related to the song that I wrote. So my first song I wrote is called "Somebody." And I wrote it after.
It's a beautiful song, by the way.
Thank you. It's the story behind it's pretty sad, but it was a kid who lost his life. He was bullied, and he was 11. His name was Ty Smalley. And I think it's important to, in the midst of the high moments, to talk about the tough moments that lead us to these places. And he took his own life when he was 11, and his parents started a nonprofit called Stand for the Silent. And they would have these events where they would bring together people who had lost loved ones, and they would honor them with a photo, and they would give out these bracelets, silicone bracelets that said, "I am somebody" on the bracelets.
Mm.
And I watched that documentary the night before my first songwriting session. And I was like, I want to write my song about being somebody, because everyone wants to feel like there's somebody who matters. And so Zach, for my birthday last year, Zach, who I met 3 years ago through LinkedIn, he was there for the day that the week my song launched. We were all in Florida together with Brian Schulman and Nancy Barrows and Tim Sohn. He went on my LinkedIn and he pulled off all of these pictures of just celebrating someone very special, pulling all these photos from LinkedIn, all these photos from the day my song released. I was singing it to them, serenading them in the car. And then he shares a story. He was on a plane visiting his mom, and he was telling a stranger about my song. Talk about spreading kindness. And she had a story, and she felt like someone validated her being somebody. So he takes a picture of her listening to it. Then on that same plane, the passenger next to him was so inspired that she wanted to draw something for me from inspiration. So he told her that I love peacocks, because I do love peacocks. They're everywhere, right? They're all over my house. So then she sits there in the air and she keeps drawing the whole flight and drawing until she creates this image of a peacock that he puts in the book. He sends me the image, and then he said by the time we landed, she was done and we had become friends. I mean, like, who does this? Zach went through all the effort. Zach does.
Zach is just that. He's got a heart the size of Greece, man. I mean,
we've had dinner. My husband and I have had dinner with him and Phyllis. We've gotten together in person several times, and he is just such a delightful human. But it's like, what a beautiful way to honor somebody and to really live out the words of the song, to make another person feel like they are somebody who matters. I mean, he nailed it.
Thank you for sharing that story. You're right, Randy. This story needed to be
We
heard.
had to have that. Now we can. Now we're down to the nitty gritty. Do you have 3 little nuggets?
Pearls of wisdom.
Pearls of wisdom. Yeah, go ahead. Pearls of wisdom that you could share with our audience as we close out.
Yeah, I once heard someone say that everyone's carrying around, was a woman named Dawn a few years ago, so that everyone's carrying around an invisible backpack full of hard and heavy things that we don't know, we can't see. And that is why it is so important for us to make the choice to be kind, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to show grace, because every single person, I've yet to meet someone who's like, you know what, I'm going through life completely unscathed. Nobody. I mean, everybody is dealing with something, whether visible or invisible. And when we acknowledge that, we connect to our shared humanity, and it helps us to just be a bit kinder to each other. I think greeting someone by name when they come on to one of these calls, right? Or you see someone in person, greeting them by name and smiling at somebody. When you're at the grocery store, we walk by people and it's easy to just like head down phone. Just give somebody a smile. You never know what just that one little smile could do to brighten their day. It's these simple things that over time of just paying attention and noticing people and having those conversations, honoring their humility, whether someone's serving you or you're just walking by them and they're a stranger, to really taking that time to acknowledge someone's humanity.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
That was fantastic. Anything else you want to add, Elia?
No, just thank you for sharing your story. And your vulnerability and your openness in how direct you are. Thank you. It's very inspiring. And the thing is that I was thinking I was going to say thousands, but really millions and millions of people have felt, if not billions of people at one point or another, you know what? I just don't fit in. I'm different. That's a very common thing. So you sharing your story and how you've created such a beautiful life and how you inspire others inspired me personally. So I appreciate you and look forward to learning more about all the great things you're doing.
So welcome. And if you want me to, Randy, I know you may ask this or not. I'd be happy to like just give 3 lines of a sing off to these people to let them really absorb these words.
We would love to hear the song. Love to hear the song. Let's do this.
Yeah.
I want to ask our audience today to take the time to think about, as we go out with this beautiful music, take the time to think about what you've learned, how it's applicable to you, and what you're going to do with what you've learned, how you're going to apply it.
That's it.
Yeah.
And remember,
and I want to end with a song. So typically we end with a line, with kindness, everybody wins. We're saying it right now. We want to end differently with you. Just when the song ends, the interview ends, just like that.
Yeah, I'll just sing the end of it. But they can go listen to the full thing, but I'll just send you off with the lines that we've said here today, but that we haven't sung. So how about I just do that?
Go
Does that
for
sound
it.
good?
Great.
Okay.
That sounds awesome.
All right, so the song ends like this. You are somebody. You are somebody. You matter and you are enough. You are somebody. You are somebody. You matter and you are enough. You are enough, enough, enough. You are so much more than enough.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Rachel, if people want to connect with you, what's the best way?
Our favorite jam place, LinkedIn. My website is just myname.com, racheldruckenmiller.com. And then on YouTube, Spotify, search my name. You can find my music. And at Unmuted Life on Instagram.
Awesome.
Very nice. Thank you. Wow.
Thank you. Thank you so much to our audience. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful week. Take care.